I received a Facebook message one day from a person who said something like, thank you so much for your videos. We use them often and we're crushing it. So we had a Facebook Messenger exchange. I invited her to join our private Facebook group, and I knew immediately that this was a person with whom I had to speak. When the idea for this video series came about, she was on the original shortlist. She is a terrific mother. She is not only a high energy, high performing Harley Davidson business manager at a terrific store. She is not only a recent HDFS ACT graduate, but she is a national championship bodybuilder. Today, my conversation is with Bluegrass Harley Davidson's Jodie Engle. So let's talk about your training. How, in God's name, did you get yourself involved in bodybuilding? And then how, in God's name, did you take yourself to this level?
I actually ask myself that question a lot.
Yeah.
I think I've always been a person that no matter how tired I am or what I have going on, I don't do complacency. Like, I can't go home at the end of the day and sit down and be like, oh, let me turn on the TV. I can go home and sit down and turn on the TV, but then all of a sudden I turn around and my whole house is clean or something else is going on and it's just background music. I've never been someone that can sit still. I blame it on my ADHD, but actually,
have you always been fit?
I started fit, then I got fat, then I got fit again.
Fit to fat to fit. Yeah. Okay.
I played sports in high school. I was on the varsity basketball team. I did fast pitch softball, ran track, the whole nine. And then I had my son whenever I was 18. Yeah. And then I was working two jobs. I was working third shift and first shift, basically just to afford, sending a little boy to daycare so I could go back to work. And quite frankly, I just gave up on me because I had something else more important at that point. And then I got all the way up to 330 pounds, and I had never been that big in my life. I had no idea I was that big. And then I ended up at the doctor for just a common cold, and I saw my weight. And then he's like, you're borderline diabetic. I want to put you on beta blockers, blood pressure meds. And I'm like, no. Yeah. I'm like, give me 90 days and I'll come back here lighter, I promise. Yeah. And he's like, as your acting physician, I'll give you 30. And so in 30 days, I came back 41 pounds lighter. And from there, it just took off. No kidding. I lost 167 pounds. Yeah, 167 pounds in 11 months naturally. Never stepped foot in the gym because I was too embarrassed. And then at the end of that, I was running 5Ks. I won a couple of those. And then I got bored there. And I was like, And I also met a guy who was a bodybuilder. Yeah. And he was like, he's like, I think you should try this. And I'm like, no, I've been judged my whole life because I was fat for years. I'm like, what do I look like getting on stage to get judged by some people?
Yeah, right.
And so I did my first show and I was hooked. I came in third, my first time ever competing. And then the next year I wanted to go back to that same show where I placed third, and I wanted to win the whole show. That's the goal I set. So I went back and actually competed in a show prior to the show that I really wanted to win. Yeah. And I won that whole show. And then I went 2 weeks later back to that show where I originally started, and I won the entire thing. So that qualified me. Yeah, that qualified me for nationals. Yeah. And then the next year I tried my hand at nationals where I placed third my first time out. And then I said, I want to go back to that show and win the whole thing. Yeah. And I couldn't go back to that show the following year because COVID. And that's why I prepped for 11 months. I would never do that normally. It's not good for your body. So I went to the only show I could hit that year, and I won it all. so I like to set outlandish goals. Yeah. Because it's not a cocky thing. I've never set a goal that I haven't been able to reach. And so the crazier, the better. If it sounds impossible, I want to try it.
Now, so how were you able to train and diet and rest and be the mother of a 10-year-old and work at a dealership where you're selling 850 units, 67 units in a 2-week period? How in God's name did you get all that done?
Extremely. I mean, I plan my life to the minute, but I prefer to live that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you could ask anyone in this dealership, they knew, like, if I was running in between deals or something, they all knew my eating schedule, like when it was time for me to eat, better than I did.
Yeah.
Because I'm running through the dealership with, like, I'd carry my food, everything's weighed out, I'd have it all packed the night before. And I'm running through the dealership eating cold food out of a Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
Or I'm in my office pouring a Ziploc bag of food into my mouth.
Yeah.
Or I'd have my blender and I'd blend my meats and vegetables and just drink it just to get the calories in. And so, I mean, I'd eat on schedule. And then, I mean, whenever I get done at work, that's whenever I would go train. So, I mean, there were some late nights. So I got new gym memberships. And I mean, some nights I wasn't going to bed until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm back up at 5 for cardio. So it's just, when something's important to you, you'll make it happen. And that's just how it worked. I have a lot of things that are very important to me. So I have to make sure those are my sole focuses: work, my son, and bodybuilding. And that's just how I've lived.
That is insane. And I dig that about you. So you came from the car business, you came from building a subprime business for groups, and you landed at Harley. What was the biggest challenge you faced learning the finance game at a Harley Davidson dealership?
Honestly, I think the biggest challenge for me, it wasn't even really the F&I side, like the menus and everything else. It was all the same. I mean, a little bit difference in product, but my big thing was like Car World F&I, like little things that I didn't realize, like I handle now at Harley, where other people handled them at other places.
Yeah.
And then, like, for instance, sending through cancellations to HDFS. Like, for instance, the deals, once we got done with them and we had all the product and all the numbers and everything was done, we would pass them off and say, okay, everything's there. And then the next person would handle all that.
Yeah.
And so it was a learning curve. But once I got that, honestly, like, I love doing finance for Harley because people are excited when they get to my office.
Right.
Where in the car business, as soon as they come to my office, I'm the enemy.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like they have a wall up, and these people are like, no, man. I mean, we do poker runs, we party for them, we have a button we hit on the wall and celebrate them, welcome them to the family. Like, I love it. So it's like everyone at the dealership said, they're like, you literally fell in like you've been here for years. Right. And I'm like, I just get along with people. It's fun, and I'm going to make it fun. Yeah. So just the small little differences between what I had done previously versus I don't have to.
Some administrative stuff. Was there, in addition to the fact now that customers aren't as defensive and this is a more enjoyable purchase experience, what was the most surprising thing about Harley Davidson to you?
It actually happened in my interview, because when I came in, like I'm wearing nice, like a black, like my arms are covered. And one of the questions they asked me in my interview, because like, and I even tried to put a spacer because I've got a piercing here that I got when I was like 19. Yeah. I've had it for 10 years. And I asked them, I was like, do I need to put a spacer in this? Because if so, like, it's no big deal. I've got them. They're like, no. They're like, actually, do you have any tattoos? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And they're like, well, here, let's see them. And they all start pulling up their sleeves. And everyone here is covered in tattoos.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, oh my God. So it's a totally different group of people than I'm used to working with. Because in the car business, it's not like that. You cover up every tattoo. You are, and even like my haircut right now.
Yeah.
I went to the other managers and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this to my hair for the show. Like, would that be an issue? Because I always would run things. They're like, why are you asking us? Like, that's badass. Go do it now. I'm like, my mind is blown. I love you all. So it's just like, it blew my mind that I could be so myself. Yeah. And it was accepted. Yeah. So it was totally different. I love it. I love it.
Welcome to the motorcycle business, sister.
It's phenomenal. I couldn't be happier.
I know. It's not like having a real job.
It really isn't. Like, I come to work and I love everyone I work with and we joke around, but then whenever it's time to put on a show, everybody flips that switch and we get it done and everyone ends up happy.
Now, you and I have chatted about this before. And one of the things that I see in our work and in interacting with so many dealership people is how people's health erodes the moment they fall into the
Yep.
dealership life,
Yep.
you know, they start to work long hours.
Yep.
It's a lot of coffee, a lot of Monster drinks, a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
Taco Bell for lunch, a
Yep.
lot of drinking beer with the gang after work.
Mm-hmm.
So, what advice would you give to people that are out there working in dealerships who, they're not going to throw down and win a national bodybuilding
Yeah.
competition, but,
Yeah.
they'd like to not gain 60 pounds,
Right.
working in the
Right.
store. So, what do you suggest?
Honestly, the number one thing you can do, and I tell a lot of the guys here at the dealership this as well, you don't have to do what I do, because they all look at me and they're like, there's no way I could live how you live. I'm like, hell, I don't even know how I live half the time, but I do it. But no, you do not have to be as rigid and restricted as someone like me is. All you need to do, and I mean, you take 10 to 12 minutes at the end of your day, and you only simply need to think about the three food groups: proteins, vegetables, carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And I just simply want you to you can have Ziploc bags, you can carry them in meal prep containers, and just simply carry 3 meals with you, because what you're going to notice is that you're not even going to eat those throughout the day. And majority of people in the dealership life don't realize, a lot of them, we'll get caught up in a deal and then all of a sudden we haven't eaten in 5 hours and we're starving. But a lot of times, like in our slow season, that's whenever the big weight gain happens. And most folks are eating out of boredom, and it's not really from hunger.
Right.
So that's why I say always have some sort of food with you, because you then can control what you put in your mouth, because you laid it out the night before. And it doesn't take any longer. I mean, if you're super slow, it might take you 15 minutes. But just a simple 10 to 12 minutes at the end of your day will set you up for such a better outcome, just all around, whether it's fast season, slow season, does not matter. And then having a morning routine is really important, as far as, not waking up 25 minutes before you're supposed to be at work and rushing out the door and starting your day shitty. You don't want to do that. Right. You want to get up in the morning. You want to have some time, because we work a lot in this business. You need to have some time for you. Yeah. And whether that time for you is sitting down to read a book, playing music, whatever it is, that mental clarity time is super important, because if you're just constantly running from, the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, if you're not setting your day up for success from the moment you get up, there's no way you're even going to take those 10 to 12 minutes at the end of the day to do what's going to set you up for success the next day.
It's so funny that you say that. My morning routine is sacrosanct. I will not do anything until I do, my series of events that I do in the morning, and you have to have it.
I'm the same way. And now mine will change a little bit from like prep to off season. Cause like right now I am full blown off season. So I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. to do an hour's worth of cardio, but instead I get up at 6 a.m. because my sons do at school at 7:30. And so I can't train in the morning, but I'll get up and I'll still have that quiet time. I'll sit down and I'll have my egg whites and spinach and just that peace. Because once we're here, we put on a show, it's time to rock and roll.
That's right.
But we need that time to recharge. Yeah. And so having a really good morning routine just starts your day right.
We have our favorites. Everybody likes to do the incline press, but nobody likes to do the deadlift. And that's the one you got to be doing.
Yep. If there's an exercise I don't want to do when I go into the gym, I make myself do 3 more sets of it than I was already going to do, just because I was being an idiot and said I didn't want to do it.
Oh my God.
So it's like, do the things that you don't want to. I swear we are. It's just the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then whoever you get in front of, it's never going to be awkward. It's just whatever. If you screw up, then you know what, you screwed up. Big deal. Move on. So and role play with everyone you can.
The real problem is, and the reason that people don't want to role play is adults don't like to look silly in front of others. You don't like to look unskilled, and it bruises your ego. And, so your brain is constantly trying to protect your ego. So it's holding you back from that. And if you can take that and set it aside and have the discipline, to throw yourself in and do what is hard, the self-esteem and the confidence that you get as a result of that. Well, it's just mind blowing in what it can do for you.
My thing is, I've embarrassed myself so much in front of so many people. I don't know if there's anything that can embarrass me at this point. I don't care. Whoever wants to role play, we can't. Me and the other finance guy, we role play every day. Yeah. Every single day. in my mind, I'm never good enough. So because again, I don't do complacency. That keeps me moving toward the next goal. And so any person I looked at backstage, I'm like, oh my God, she's beat me. I'm beat. I need to go home. And then we walk out on stage, and how we fell, like with our last names, because they take you out like I'm E. So I was in the middle between them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, they're going to move me at some point because the person in the middle is first.
Yeah.
And so they put us through our first poses, and I'm like, okay, they need to move me. And I'm looking at the other girls because I know there's always a powerhouse at nationals, and that's the person you always fear. You never know who they are. And then, because I can't see what I look like.
Yeah.
I just can't. I see myself every day. And so then when they didn't move me, and then they're like, okay, ladies, we'll see you back at finals. I'm like, wait, what? And then I saw the pictures, and I'm like, oh my God, that powerhouse I was afraid of, I was the powerhouse. Yeah. I had no idea. And so, yeah, backstage, I was terrified.
Do you keep photos of you from your competitions in your office when you're working with customers?
I don't. The main picture I have in my office, it's behind me, and it's a big Happy Mother's Day collage that my kiddo made me.
Yeah.
And so that's the main thing I'll keep in there. But all of we call our staff fitment specialists,
yeah.
Our sales team. And the fitment specialists are all so like in awe of what I do. Yeah. All of their customers know what I look like at competition time before they ever meet me. No. And so they're like, I can't believe that. And so majority of them see it anyway. Yeah. But the only thing I really
what is the customer reaction? So, so what is the customer reaction?
There's a couple of different ones. I've been asked, are you male or female? I'm like, I get it. It happens because I'm a very overly muscular woman. I get it. I'm not offended. And I'll correct that, or they'll call me sir in closing, and I'll correct that. Or how much do you bench? I'm so used to that one. It's unreal. Or I have a lot of men that will tell me, they'll ask me my numbers, and then they'll tell me that they lift more than me. And I'm like, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. And then some women will ask me for, what can I do to lose this? And, it sparks conversation, and it's good conversation. It builds rapport. And then they always come back and, oh, Jodie, how are you? Yeah. A lot of them have added me on Facebook and followed the whole journey. They love it.
I bet. Well, it really has got to be a conversation starter. Does anybody ever see, let's see those guns?
Yes, they do 100%. And that's why majority of the time I'm wearing a jacket, because in prep, when I was in here, because I get very, very vascular.
Yes.
And when I eat, it was just, I'm crawling with them in my head and everywhere.
Yeah.
And customers would walk up to me and they're going to touch my arms. And I'm like, whoa, personal space, and especially COVID. But yeah, so then I just started wearing a jacket to ixnay all that.
What other words of advice would you give to people who are working in the motorcycle business to just be successful?
Something that we say every day to our sales team, and it sounds cliche, but it's so genuine. Trust the process. Whichever process your dealership has, it is like we have a 10-step process, here. And then we have our process in F&I. Every department has their own process. Whatever process you were taught, it has been put in place for a reason. And it can sound redundant. You can hear it over and over in your Saturday morning meetings and roll your eyes and, oh my God, but it's there for a reason. If you it's laid out for you. Your path to success is there. It is just your job to simply take each one of those, each step at a time. And if you do it every time, I promise, whether you want to be the number one salesperson or you want to be the number one F&I person, you'll do it.
Jodie Engle, you are number one, and you've got the trophy to prove it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.